This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew. It's the Craft Beer Brewing Podcast. I'm Jamie Bogner, and for today's episode, we are in Washougal, Washington, just north of the Columbia River and Portland, Oregon, on the Washington side of the river. And we're back in a mill room on a makeshift table, but we are on location for this one. And joining me is Jake Watt from Trapdoor. Welcome to the podcast, Jake.
Thanks for having me, Jamie.
The last couple of years we've had your fresh hop beer, Fresher Than Fresh, and you won 2 gold medals for it at GABF, back-to-back gold medals in that category. And I saw you at GABF, and we were drinking that beer with you, last year. Like, it's a revelation. And at that point, like, we're just gonna have to do a podcast episode. And so I figured, I'm coming out here. I actually decided I would come and judge for the Best of the West competition again, so that I could come up here and talk to you, so I could go down to Bend and do a couple other podcasts that'll also be coming out sometime soon. And, it's not like coming to Oregon in the summertime to drink beer. It's not a hard sell.
No, it doesn't get much better. This is perfect season for that up here.
It's sunny out. Mount Hood is just gleaming out there. Like, it's beautiful. The weather's great.
Yeah, you can see that big Mount Hood pops up on your drive out east from Portland and Vancouver out here to Washougal. It feels like you're like almost right there.
It's pretty incredible, and this is a beautiful part of the country. And anyway, so we're going to talk about fresh hop beer through this episode because you make a lot of fresh hop beers. I remember at the end of the season last year, you sent us a box of your fresh hop beers, and it was like at least 4 different fresh hop beers.
Yeah, we did 6 different beers last year, all hot side. We'll get into that later. But
oh man, you're starting the beef just off the bat. Okay.
But yeah, I got some stats here. We brewed 1,900 barrels total for production in 2025, and that's packaged, and then 160 of that was solely fresh hop. So it represents about 10% of what we do. And then this year we're going to do about 2,000 barrels, and we'll do 270 barrels of fresh hop, and it's going to be 9 beers this year.
Cranking it up. Well, lean into the things that you're successful with. And up here, it does bear saying that in fresh hop season, those are the only beers that beer drinkers up here, like that craft beer drinkers, especially when they go out to drink, for occasions and whatnot, those are the beers they want to drink. Like, when it's time, like here we are for it, and we know it's a 6-week window. Boom. Now we start. Now we know when the end is. Like all the fresh hop beers, all that we can drink. And even accounts and breweries are like we can't sell other IPAs into the market at in fresh hop season if they are not fresh hop IPAs.
No, 100%. We, outside of like core beer placements that you might have at a random sports bar or something, like any craft account that's heavy on craft is only buying fresh hop IPA, and even fresh hop Pilsner, Oktoberfest, like all these styles. So we basically have to deplete our
Oktoberfest.
Yeah, people make them.
Hell yeah,
they're pretty cool. But yeah, we have to deplete all of our non-fresh hop IPAs other than the core SKUs into like mid-August, and then we can't even make a new IPA into the end of October. So it's like this very interesting time in the Northwest that none of my other friends around the country have any understanding of, where I'm like, do you have anything like this? They're like, nope. But yeah, it's fun.
Amazing. Well, let me just list off some of your some of the awards. Like you've got, like I said, back-to-back golds in 2025, 2024 for Fresher Than Fresh. You've got a bronze at GABF for Day Beer in 2023, World Beer Cup silver for Dream Imperial IPA in 2026. With us at Craft Beer and Brewing, even in barrel-aged stout, Interiority Coconut scored a 98, Juiced Up a 96, Day Beer a 96, Blown Up a 96, Glowed Up a 95, Fresh Frozen a 94 using Cryo Fresh, I believe, on that one.
Yep.
Which we will talk about later on here
100%.
in the episode. So some pretty awesome scores across a number of different styles there, not just hoppy beers, but also some barrel-aged stouts, lager, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we're definitely known for being hopheads, and I love, our number one SKU is Glowed Up. It makes up about 40% of the brewery. Hazy IPA, single hazy IPA, and then we have variations off that. But the West Coast is like where my heart is in the hoppy beers. So, I kind of shifted the program to a lot more West Coast beers over the years.
For sure. Well, let's get into it. I would love to hear a little bit about how you got here, and then of course what this approach is for fresh hop beers. But before we do,
hey there, Justin from G&D Chillers. For decades, we partnered with breweries to solve their everyday challenges, from efficiency upgrades to sustainable refrigerant solutions. If you're ready to future-proof your cold side, we're ready to help.
G&D now offers their Elite 290 Micro Series with 5H chillers, bringing even more flexibility to their propane-powered lineup. In fact, they're building one right now for Red Clover Ale Company in partnership with Efficiency Vermont. It runs on a natural refrigerant with near-zero global warming potential, projected to deliver around 10% more efficiency than A2L refrigerant systems. That's smart sustainability backed by proven engineering and trusted performance. With 24/7 support and remote monitoring, your cold side stays dialed in day or night. Explore the Elite 290 Micro Series and more at gdchillers.com/podcast. GD Chillers, they're an Oregon company down here, not too far away.
Yeah, we got one out back. It's been working well for a long time.
All right. And at the World Beer Cup this year, gold for West Coast IPA, gold for Session IPA, bronze, silver, and gold for New Zealand IPA, bronze, silver, and gold for Classic IPA. All these beers were fermented with one yeast, Fresh Chico, Berkeley's low diacetyl ale yeast. There's something you need to know. Diacetyl is not just a pass or a fail. Yes, at high levels, it's tragically bad, but even at low levels, it masks the good flavors. So if you want hop notes to pop, you need diacetyl to be ultra low. The reason these brewers trust Berkeley yeast for an ultra clean fermentation is because on the finals table, every little detail matters. And now Fresh Chico is available in dried bricks for as low as $88 at berkeleyyeast.com. Also, this episode is sponsored by PackTech, delivering craft beer multi-packing you can trust. PackTech's handles are made from 100% recycled plastic and are fully recyclable, helping breweries close the loop and advance the circular economy. With a minimalist design, durable functionality you can rely on, and custom color matching, PackTech helps brands stand out while staying sustainable. Trusted by craft brewers nationwide, they offer a smarter, sustainable way to carry your beer. To learn more, visit packtech-opi.com. That's PAKTECH-OPI.com. All right, Jake. You know how we started off. Let's start off a little bit of background. Tell us yours, and then and how that arc through brewing led you here to Trapdoor.
Yeah, cool. So I grew up in the Portland area, small town outside of it called Scappoose, and didn't have anything to do with beer for a long time. Kind of tried to be an accountant for a little bit. Went to school for that. Realized I still liked math, but hated.
So sensible. So sensible.
I know. I was good at math, and my uncle was golfing all the time, and he was an accountant. So I was like, hey, that looks fun. Turns out that was not so fun. So dropped out of school. Started homebrewing with my dad when I was 19. He is retired now, but he was a sheet metal fabricator. So he built all the homebrew equipment, and I made all the recipe choices and all that. And we kind of really bonded over that because he was geeking out on the gear and I was geeking out on the actual making of the beer. And we both loved drinking it together. So that was fun.
You were geeking out on the percentages.
Yeah, exactly. So did that. My mom really wanted me to go back to school. I realized there was a cool hack that I could go locally to Oregon State for a beer program, get the degree to make her happy, and also learn how to make beer. Kind of felt that it was going to be a little safer option for me to do that versus start cleaning kegs somewhere and working my way up.
It's a great program too.
Yeah, I mean, really, really loved my time there. Learned a lot from Tom Shellhammer and Jeff Clausen, and really the main thing that I took from that program was
you don't know this now, but Tom was the guest on last week's
Oh, really? Oh man,
Sure.
love Tom. I worked in his lab, got to work, made beer on old dairy equipment. It's much fancier now than my time. But yeah, the thing that I was kind of most stoked on leaving Oregon State with was a little bit of knowledge in my pocket, but a huge network. And that still sticks with me today.
Right.
Good friends all over the place, large breweries, small breweries, food manufacturers, all that. But yeah, so made the mom happy, got the degree, had the safety plan backup, but I knew the whole time it was like, I'm going to work for a brewery. I'm getting excited about this. I interned at Crux Fermentation out in Bend during my time at Oregon State, and also a former brewery in Portland called Bridgeport.
That little brewery.
Yeah, that little brewery. So I learned a lot of both those places on quality and, just how to maintain yourself and be a good employee.
Sure.
And then I left there to go make wine for a harvest in McMinnville at a really awesome winery. Small guy called Goodfellow, makes great Burgundy style stuff. Realized that wine scared me because you got one shot per year, and I'm more of a tinkerer. I don't want to don't want to just get the grapes and hope for the best.
Couple good breweries out there in McMinnville.
Oh, good friends of mine, amazing breweries out there. But yeah, so got done with all that, came back to Portland with this degree and all this experience, and I was like, someone's gonna hire me. I'm a catch. And then I realized quickly that the internship is not, and it's experience, but it's not boots on the ground, real experience. So everyone I talked to was like, that's great and all, but go work a couple years before coming to a smaller brewery. And I've always wanted to be in like a 2,000 to 5,000 barrel kind of situation, be a little more flexible and innovative and all that. So I went out and I got a job at Bowie Brewing in Astoria.
Sure.
I lived there for 3 years. Kevin Shaw, whole team out there. It's a lot of new faces now, but I was there when we were on the 20 barrel system doing 20,000 barrels a year.
Damn.
Just cranking.
We did 2 years of brewers retreats out there in 2017 and 2018. So split between Fort George and Bowie. So got to see both of those places.
Love all those guys. I mean, I got hired in 2018, so I just missed you on that. But spent 3 years there, went from brewer to quality manager, and just kind of, again, learned how to purport myself in a brewery and work at high volumes and be a good cellarman and, run a canning line, all that kind of stuff.
And that 20 barrel brew house is on a pier, over water.
I mean, it was.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that pier doesn't exist anymore. It fell into the water, but that was after my time. But yeah, we were just cranking, and it went from doing one mash in a week at a small brewery to 3 a day. So I was just really got the repetitions in, and then I met my wife. Girlfriend at the time, was working and living in Portland, so I decided to start looking for jobs because her job was a lot better than mine and I could brew anywhere. So I was like, she's a respiratory therapist. She's doing really important stuff. So I was like, hey, I can find a job in Portland. Just give me some time, because I wanted to be a little picky. And Trapdoor had the opportunity. Just as a brewer, I came in as just a guy executing the vision. And then within a year and a half, the 2 different head brewers had left. So they kind of looked at me and was like, you think you can do it? And I
put me in, coach.
Nervously said yes. But, in my heart of hearts, I think I was I knew I was ready, but I was very scared at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was just hit the ground running from there. We were brewing 900 barrels a year in this small pub, mostly over our own bar. And then a year after I was kind of working that, we decided to buy this building here in Washougal, which came with another 15 barrel brew house and much more fermentation capacity, much more square footage. So they were like, you think you can manage this transition? So I said, again, nervously, yeah, I'll try. And then the first year we went from 900 barrels to 1,600. And then we've been on a little bit more steady, like 10% growth curve since there, which is nice because that first year was pretty brutal.
But yeah. 2,000 next year and 270 barrels of fresh hop beer.
Yeah. So it's just like adding a nice little like 1 to 200 barrels of production a year, which feels very comfortable to me and doesn't strain us as a team. And this facility here has full capacity. Back of the envelope, maybe 5,000 barrels as is. So, happy with it.
Sure. All right. Well, let's talk about. I mean, you came in here and your goal was not to just put your head down and make beer that nobody cared about. You've got some ambition also, and you care about what you make, and you wanted to also make something that was going to matter out there in the world of brewing, and so we're going to talk about all of that. But before we do, Oregon hop country is heaven to world-class lager varieties. And Indie Hops is proud to have introduced Oregon's newest lager hop, Lorien, in 2022. Lorien is in a growing list of beers that have found their way to the podium and, more importantly, into the hearts of lager lovers across the country. Discover Indie Hops Lorien. Side effects may include rampant festivities, sales bumps, and exceeded expectations. Indie Hops, life is short. Let's make it flavorful. And this podcast is sponsored by the Midea 5050 Flex, the industry's first dual-compartment 3-way convertible freezer. The 5050 Flex is designed to flex with your life. It can convert you all fridge, all freezer, or half and half with just the touch of a button. Plus, with reversible doors and adjustable storage compartments, you can stay organized no matter your food storage needs. The 5050 Flex is also designed to maintain a stable temperature, even in non-climate controlled spaces, so it's perfect for your garage, man cave, or wherever you need a little more space. Maybe use all 20 cubic feet as a beer fridge. Check out midea.com/US for more information on how to take your beer storage to the next level. Jake, you poured me this IPA called Diego, a collaboration between you and DeGard before we started, and I only really made it to the first sponsor read before I finished it. That's it might be a new record, honestly. I don't know here.
Hey, I'd love to hear it. Yeah, we're super stoked on this one. Trevor reached out after we poured at his anniversary, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to make a West Coast with you. I love Riwaka hops. Let's base it around that," and kind of ran with it from there. So we used a good hefty portion of Riwaka, which is not normal for us. We usually use that as sort of the salt in a hop bill. Yeah. Maybe a 10-25%, but this was more like a 50%. And then we added some deep cut Cascade CGX in about the same proportion. So maybe it's 40%, and then 10% Citra. Trying to keep some of that like really modern passion fruit Riwaka NZ funk note, but also remain in that nice classic like Northwest piney territory as well.
And there's just something I love how Riwaka kind of rides that line between modern contemporary New Zealand hop, but also like with its Sats heritage, and like it pulls in some of those kind of like classic like noble echoes. They're not the like primary thing, but they just kind of like they sit there, on the low threshold kind of zone and help buoy all of that up.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite hops to use as a supporting cast. Originally it was so expensive that we couldn't lead with it.
Sure.
Now we're getting it for a lot more reasonable costs. We actually get ours from Clayton hops. We really love the kind of cleaner passion fruit flavors that it has. But yeah, we're using it in a lot of things now, core beers even, I think it's the biggest, between Krush, Riwaka, those are probably the biggest cheat codes to make Mosaic the best hop in the world.
Really?
I love Mosaic. It's my favorite hop.
Yeah.
But like a little bit of Krush or a little bit of Riwaka just like unlocks that mythical blueberry thing in Mosaic and like forces your lot of Mosaic into this dark berry character that I love. That's what I think anyway. Interesting.
Krush and Riwaka are that unlock, huh?
With Mosaic, those are my favorite too. Krush is such a good. Well, all three of those are such good hops. It's hard not to put them in everything. But That was why for this beer, this Diego beer, we purposefully kept the Mosaic out, because I was like, we make so many beers like that. Let's just find another cool hop. So the deep cut Cascade is something that's new and fresh and fun, and
Tell me about the deep cut Cascade. I mean, I know that everyone's trying to push like, well, if you're Seagull, it's high oil. If you're Crosby, it's deep cut. Like everyone is trying to come up with everyone a good brand name that reads well on a label, that helps you as a brewer sell a beer to a beer fan that feels like they've had everything like that. The growers and the brokers they're trying to give you the things that that make a story out of it.
I mean, I agree. There's definitely something to branding. We all know that, but I do. So they didn't have deep cut as the name originally. It was just late harvest Cascade when I first heard about it. And I do think that there's such a cool opportunity with harvest timing right now through all the hop industries, and a lot of farms are playing around with things. And I got some samples.
One of the benefits of lower volume being pushed through some of these production facilities.
It's driving a bit of innovation, which is nice to see. Yeah. Sometimes I think there's a little too much innovation with some of the flowable stuff, but a lot of the these harvest timing things are what's super interesting to me. And seeing a new twist on a really old classic like Cascade, I didn't think much of it, but they gave me some samples and rubbed them, smelled them, and I was like, whoa, that's like thiol-y. And then she gave me my rep gave me the like kind of talking notes on it, and I was like, oh, you guys think it's thiol-y too? Okay, cool, I'm not crazy. And it's not going to be like a New Zealand hop, but it's definitely something that can work in the background and really like pop a beer.
Interesting. So let's talk about fresh hop beers. Obviously, as we talked about at the start here, when it gets in the season here, and where you are on the Washington side of Metro Portland, like you are smack dab between two of the biggest hop growing regions in the Pacific Northwest. Willamette Valley, just south of Portland, or south and southwest of Portland, and then Yakima, which is just 2.5 hours north of us, or northeast, kind of where we are right now, up the Columbia Valley, and then then cut over. Yeah, I have done the drive both directions. Anyway, you were right here, and so you have both of those kinds of hop growing areas to pull from. And that fresh hop beers are going to be a resonant thing. So, as you got started in the fresh hop space, where did you start? And then maybe we can trace some of the kind of evolution to where you are now. Because, I mean, that I think is kind of the key thing. The way that we make award-winning fresh hop beer now is not the way that we made award-winning fresh hop beer 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Certainly not 6 or 7 years ago before the pandemic. There's been some dramatic kind of movement in this space. As we saw last summer, there's some teams evolving in terms of methodology and some competing ways that brewers make these things. Last year, I obviously talked to Sean from Ruse. He had his own thoughts about how they make it. But then, of course, Breakside has their thoughts about making it. And I'm curious, Jake, about where you started and where you are now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think my first fresh hop beer I ever tried was 2014. So, I'm not the craziest old. I mean, that was when I turned 21. So it was like my first real chance to
yeah.
So, a lot of the first ones I was drinking then, that's 12 years ago now. It's very sticks out in my brain of this, it's definitely, they were all cold side beers. They were very green.
All cold side beers.
I think so. When I was drinking them back then, I mean, there could have been some other ways, but at least the ones I was drinking.
Okay, Breakside, we see you. Yeah.
The other ways I was drinking them, they were definitely more closely connected to what I envision a cold side beer is, at least. Okay. And that's pretty polarizing to a lot of people. I think a lot of people that don't grow up drinking beer in the Northwest, they come in, they try those beers, and they're like, ugh, it's like just grass clippings and this and that. And I'm like, that's kind of derogatory way to put it. I think they're fun. But yeah, there was a lot of rough, harsh stuff. And I think the excitement of the fresh hop season was selling those beers more so than like were these amazing beers. But they were special to me, and they unlocked something in my brain of like, whoa, I didn't know I grew up in this region that is like so deeply connected to hops. And, you know, growing up just outside of Portland, it's like...
Should also know before we move forward that cold side process for making fresh hop beers has also evolved.
Yes, very much,
days.
very
And
much,
so
yeah.
both of these methods have evolved, and we're not going to, you know, throw it. It's not a straw man argument to argue that that's wrong just because it once produced some beers like that.
I will never say that either method is wrong. I'll get that just out front. I think, you know, I'll get to that point, but I think some of that conversation was a little silly last year. But yeah, so I was drinking those beers, and like that's why those have a special place in my heart of like that's what I always thought fresh hop beer was.
Right.
So then I get older, and you know we're make plenty of breweries I worked at, we made them that way, and then I started, you know, getting to know other brewers, going up to Yakima for selection, and I'm getting to try Single Hill and Varietal, and you know those guys. I'm drinking those beers, and I'm like, why are these like they're very good? Why don't they have that je ne sais quoi of like this green matter thing? And they're like, well, we're processing them differently. We're using them different. And it was just a total new ball game to me. I was like, wait, you're using a chopper and you're doing this and you're freezing them and you're pelletizing. It was just like, it opened up a whole new realm for me of like, I think sometimes you got to like see someone else doing something until you realize it's possible yourself. And I'll never say I'm the most creative to be the first to something, but I think once I see something, I can really work it down to how it works well for me and my taste. So yeah, like this is 4 years ago now, drinking the varietal stuff specifically. It was like, I want to get to know Chris because he's making the absolute best fresh hop beer in the world, and watching his Instagram and all, it looks so fun. And I started to realize like, oh, he's putting them in what we now call hot side. Like, you know, he's doing this hop back method in his mash tun. How do I do that? Because at Trap at the time, we were just doing 2 beers per year and only cold side. Just like get them in, get them out, on to the next thing. We weren't really, in my opinion, celebrating the harvest like I try to do now. And we weren't leaning into it at all.
Making the beers you had to make because that's what the market wanted from you at that point.
Exactly. And we were only a pub brewery selling over our own bar. So we made our 2, we sold as much as we could, and then we were on to the next thing. But what we found was that then when we started to try and make more beers, no one wanted them because it was still the bulk of fresh hop season. So I took over the brewery here. I started here in 2021. I took over in late 22, right before fresh hop season. And my first ever medal for fresh hop was our hazy IPA Glowed Up. We do a fresh hop version of it using Roy Farms Amarillo because that's what we use in the dry hop in the regular version of the beer. And
fresh hop Amarillo hazy IPA.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I mean, just Amarillo hazy IPA like sounds curious to me.
It's so I mean, that was a recipe I inherited, to be honest. It's the #1 seller here at Trapdoor. It's hot side is typically just a whirlpool of Simcoe, and then we dry hop it with Citra, Amarillo, and Simcoe, and it lends for this really nice like dank orange citrus kind of thing. And we're definitely going for the more prototypical classic Amarillo from Yakima, not the more fruit punchy Oregon stuff, which is also great, just doesn't fit that beer. So yeah, I was like, I just had someone quit. I was working by myself, and I was like, we're going to do all hot side beers this year and just see what happens. So I actually was at a friend's wedding the night before. Andy Roy calls me up and says, the hops are ready. You need to come tomorrow. And I'm on the dance floor at this wedding. Like, dude, what time do I got to be there? He's like, 7 a.m. would be great. And I'm like, I got to get up after partying at this wedding all night and drive to Yakima and back. And I had no other brewer. So I wasn't mashing in until I got back with the hops. And it was like this crazy 16-hour day to like drive 3 hours there, 3 hours back, mash in, do all this. And I'm just dragging ass, like so hungover from this wedding. Luckily, my wife showed up and brought dinner and my dog. And we've got this really cute picture of my dog with the hops. And Yeah, I was like, I don't know, this is like an experiment. We'll see. And then I was tracking the beer throughout, and I was like, this is the best version of this we've ever made. It's so oily, and just the flavors are there. And after the dry hop, it turned out it was great. Sent the beer into the Washington Beer Awards, I believe. Yep. And then ended up getting a bronze medal for it. So it was like, that was all I needed. I was like, this is setting me down a path of like, I will never do a cold side beer ever again. At the time, that was what I was telling myself. And the biggest thing that I learned from that early experience with that beer was the stability of the flavors on the hot side.
Interesting.
So this is something I noticed with other beers too, but mainly I just want to speak internally. Like what we see with our beers is when we've made cold side infusions, they make some really beautiful flavors because you're extracting this thing without any heat. It hasn't seen heat in the kiln, hasn't seen heat in the brew house. So you get these very beautiful, interesting flavors and aromas, but they're very volatile. So even for my opinion, the best made fresh hop beers that are using the cold side infusion, they have the quickest shelf life. I believe it's 1 to 2 weeks before you start really seeing a dramatic decline. And that's just something that we don't believe is fair to the market and the consumer. Of like, if we're going to can something and put it out there, it may be 3, 4, or 5 weeks before someone eventually buys that can from a bottle shop. So I think, to make a beer and put it out, it didn't make sense for us. And then when we started doing the hot side method, we're starting to see these beers just be bulletproof. Like it's a regular dry hop. So, typical beer timeline on that. And then because we're doing this hot infusion, we're just noticing that we're just getting these oils into the beer that are much more stable. And, at least a typical beer timeline of 90 to 120 days, I'm really happy with these beers on. And we actually lost a couple cans in the back of the cooler a few years ago, and picked them up like 8 months after, cracked them open. And, the aromas weren't there because the dry hop had faded, but I could have handed that to someone and they're like, oh, this is a new beer that you're making. This is pretty cool. Like it was still had the flavors and characteristics of like a really nice IPA.
Well, let's talk about what that hot side process is, and then of course how you think about varieties that are going to work within that kind of context. Now that you've set out the methodology that you're going to use with some, but you also need to have flavor goals that are going to connect with people and be interesting, and also work well together. And then as you mix these process, I'm curious how dry hopping fits into this with hot side fresh hopping. Let's start talking about all of that. But before we do, Briess Malting has been supplying craft brewers with the highest quality base and specialty malts since the early 1980s. As Briess celebrates their 150th anniversary this year, they're proud to remain a fifth generation family-owned company. They love to support the creativity and passion in craft brewing that results in amazing beers. All Briess malts are made in America, so you can count on a reliable supply chain. Barley is sourced from 300 growers in the Bighorn Basin of Wyoming and Montana, plus technical support is available through their Center of Malting Excellence. With 150 years of malting expertise, check out why so many craft brewers trust Briess for their specialty malt at brewingwithbriess.com. Also, this episode is brought to you by Y Yeast Laboratories. If you've brewed with Y Yeast's 1056 American Ale, you've brewed with the strain that helped build craft beer from the ground up. 4 decades later, it's still one of the most used strains in the country, delivering the same quality and consistency. These legendary liquid yeast providers are celebrating their 40th anniversary alongside America's 250th this 4th of July. And as part of the celebration, they're offering 10% off every order of 1056 American Ale scheduled by July 31st and shipped by August 30th. Already have an order in that window? Don't worry, your discount will be automatically applied. Here's to 40 years of living culture and best in craft liquid yeast. Check out the anniversary at yyeastlab.com. Another company that's not too far away from us right now.
Yeah, really nice yeast.
Cool. Cool. So let's then talk about what your hot side fresh hop process looks like, and maybe we should start at the field itself.
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of people I talk to that don't really take the field or variety into that much of a thought for their recipes. They're just kind of like, it's fresh hop. We need to make one. Let's just grab whatever's the closest, and we're going to make it in this day. So whatever's harvesting that day. I do a much more focused approach on that. So we're a small brewery. We don't get to traditional select a lot of varieties. So this is the one time a year that I can go to certain farms and find the lots that I wish that I could get access to and use them. So Coleman Farms has been a great partner to us for many years for all types of hops, but fresh hop is the biggest thing that we do with them. And it was just so cool to get to know Max and the whole team and start to walk fields and smell these different varieties and see, okay, well, this looks good, that looks good. So we tend to start our process by finding a variety that we want to use, building the recipe around that, and then bugging them every single day for an entire month. When is this harvesting? When is this harvesting? But there's kind of a two-sided approach of picking a variety for fresh hop commercially. One is you got to think about, like, when is this beer going to release during the month? And a lot of times we have to be very thoughtful on that, because if we release too many at the same time, that becomes difficult for our distributors to sell. If we release them too late into September, the fatigue of the fresh hop season sets in. So while I love Mosaic, it's my favorite hop, we only make one Mosaic fresh hop beer. It's the gold medal winner, but I struggle to sell that beer sometimes. I have to make sure the pre-sales are locked in. So I can't really release anything else.
So that's why you start with these Oregon fresh hops down here, because they mature earlier and are harvested earlier in the season. And so you all are just creeping fresh hop season earlier and earlier as you can. The same way that pumpkin beer seasonality now starts in July. As soon as you can get them out there. I see what you're doing here.
I wrote a very big manifesto on that exact topic this year, and I have not made it public, but that's the frustrating part to me about this hot side, cold side debate, is that's not really the debate. The debate is the seasonal shift, and it's very frustrating to see, like, brewers getting upset at each other, whatever, jabs or whatever they're sending of, like, well, I don't like cold side beer. Like, I'll be here to say I fully enjoy a lot of the cold side beers, especially the stuff from Breakside is fantastic, but I'm not saying anyone specific is the problem. It's just like people want to rush to be first to market and sell beer. And it's almost this, like, I don't want to call it greed. That's too strong of a word, but like you're racing to be first and not taking care of the season. And that really frustrates me as a brewer, because I think some of the best beers are being released later into September, and the consumer is already fatigued because the early Centennial beers are out in the third week of August, So that's kind of something that I get really bummed about, but putting that behind us, even let's say, because I'll just talk about what we do. We do all the hot side beers here. We believe that's the method that works best for us. So we have to be judicious on what we select. So Strata is an early hop that is an awesome hop that we use. A lot of the indie varieties, Luminosa, we're using this year. We're also using some Chinook from them. Like, those are some earlier harvesting, late August to early September. We're picking those. We're also picking the Simcoe's, Mosaics of the world, but we're really buying almost all of our stuff from Oregon, because all of the variety on a variety to variety basis, they're about a week earlier than any of the Yakima stuff is getting harvested. So it feels weird as a Washington brewer to use mainly only Oregon hops for our fresh hop beers, but that's where we kind of come around and say, like, hey, for our fresh hop glowed up, we're going to use Roy Amarillo, and that's our one Washington variety that we make sure that we use. It's important to me to use Washington hops as a Washington brewery. But I also still live in Oregon, and I've grown up my whole life in Oregon, so I'm like, I have a little bit of bias to those hops. But yeah, so kind of once you kind of selected that variety that you want to work with, then I think the fresh hop itself performs pretty closely to the hop, the pellet in the brew house. So,
What do you mean by that?
well, I just think that you can kind of visualize the unkilned hop to have a very similar aromatic and flavor profile to the kilned version of the hop. So when I'm starting to select like kettle hops and dry hops beyond that fresh hop selection, I'm just looking for stuff that I know works well with that hop year round and in other beers that we've made.
I see what you're saying. If it works well with a pellet version of that fresh hop, then it's going to work well with this fresh version of that hop.
Correct. Yeah. So, kind of starting from the beginning, we've selected the variety that we want to work with. We've kind of standardized 20 pounds per barrel in our brew house. We've done less. We've never done more. More is too expensive. We've kind of made the limit of like, what can we financially do and also make a badass beer? And 20 pounds per barrel seems to be that number for us. We are bringing those hops in. We're using the hop chopper, or otherwise known as like a leaf mulcher. So we got ours from online, Amazon, I think. It just has a rotating blade that spins very high revolutions, and we dump the hops in the top and it shreds them up. The idea is to break open that cone a little bit. You know, some people are doing liquid nitrogen to do that. We're not using any of the liquid nitrogen. We're just mechanically chopping open the hop with a grinder. I think it really opens up a lot more of the lupulin to be extracted in the process, and has like allowed us to maybe even cut back some of that poundage of the unkilned hops because we're accessing more of the lupulin that we want.
But you haven't cut it back. You're still at 20 pounds
Yeah,
per barrel. So
yeah, exactly.
That just gets you more extraction out of that same 20 pounds per barrel.
100%. I mean, I think that's like flowables. It's like, we could cut back, but like, or we can just add more.
Yeah.
So yeah,
This is America. As you know, more is more.
Hey, you know, you got a reputation to uphold once you start making some of the beers as potent flavor and aromatics that we have. So
Sure.
So yeah, that's kind of the big parts of the process are bringing that in, grinding it up. But as far as recipe development, sorry, I'm kind of skipping around.
And do you do a hot side steep where you then keep these in the mash tun and move that wort over it before you knock out?
Yeah, so let me refer to my notes here. So we treat the beers as like very typical West Coast IPAs or whatever style it's going to be until the whirlpool step. We basically take all of the whirlpool pellets out of what would be there, and then the fresh hops become that addition for the beer.
Sure.
So we are boiling, bittering. We'll just speak West Coast IPA for ease here. We're, bittering. We've got a late kettle addition. And then instead of adding whirlpool pellets like we normally would, we then transfer that beer into the hop back while the mash tun converted into a hop back.
Sure.
The one thing that we kind of do slightly differently there is that we route it through the heat-X, and we do a very light knockdown temperature-wise. So I still want to be above pasteurization temps for safety, but we do a very fast pass through the heat-X to knock down to like 190, 185, and then that's going on to the hops from there. I just think if we're doing that for the regular beers, it was an idea that I thought would be nice for the fresh hops as well.
Cool pooling even on your fresh hop beers.
Cool pool the fresh hops, as long as you just food safety is important. So trying to keep it
At
there.
190, it's still fine.
Yeah, 100%. So once we get the hops into the mash tun, we start transferring the beer over. It takes generally about 20 to 30 minutes to get it over there.
But now, like if you've done it both ways, like, does knocking that temperature down actually achieve anything? Because you are going to knock the temperature down of that wort no matter what. You're putting them onto hops that are not sitting at 190 degrees themselves, and so they're going to bring some of that liquid temperature down.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's a astute point. I think I live by the code of like whatever helps me sleep at night is something that I'm going to continue to do. So like I don't have access to a crazy sensory team. You know, it's mainly just me and two other guys here. So we were, I mean, at the time last year it was me and one other person. So, you know, we're doing all this stuff and there's no A/B testing on this. It's really just, do we like the beers and is it a methodology that we want to continue to do? And I think last year's results spoke for themselves. Of all 6 beers that we made won medals, some of them multiple times. Not the medals or everything, but in a blind taste off, you know, it definitely, there's probably a lot of people doing very similar approaches. If we're doing slight different process approaches, that those little things add up over time.
Sure,
from what I've learned.
So don't mess with success in that sense, for sure.
So yeah, so once we get it transferred over, we just do we have a flow panel on our brew house, so we're able to just kind of like move the hoses around and send wort wherever we want. And we settled on running the wort off and then back through the Vorloff arm. So we do a bit of a Vorloff style recirculation while running the rakes at a very slow speed. We're trying to just minimize splashing. I don't want to add any unwarranted oxidation at any point. So, you know, we'll even add like a spool to our Vorloff arm to like drop it below the liquid level. But when you're throwing in 600, 900 pounds of fresh hops and, you know, 15 to 20 barrels of wort, like it tends to be pretty full in there anyway.
Yeah.
So we do that recirculation.
It's one hell of a filter bed you built there.
It's a pain in the butt to hop out at the end of the day. So yeah, we do that recirculation, and then it kind of gets time to settle, and then we knock out straight from because of the flow panel, it allows us to knock out straight from the mash tun.
How long does it spend in that mash tun spinning a bit there with the rakes?
20 minutes.
Okay.
So
it's pretty short contact time.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the entire contact under an hour and a half, because it's taking us 20 to 30 minutes to transfer onto the hops. We're spinning for 20 minutes, and then it's taking us 30 minutes to knock out. I don't want to have too much exposure time at those temperatures. So yeah, that's kind of the goal.
And you've broken these up, so they're not whole cones sitting in there. They're these shredded things, and so they are picking that up quickly too.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely getting some, you know, it's a very uncalculable bitterness and all these things that you're getting. We don't even like really calculate for it. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I'm looking at my brew sheets now. We typically want internal number BUs to be about 70 on our IPAs, and I'm knocking off about 10 BUs worth of, and this is all just based off sensory stuff. We have an internal number, but sensory based. So yeah, they get that spin. The biggest thing is that you need to adjust pH and extract for fresh hops. So we're actually targeting a half a Plato above our desired knockout gravity, because the water content is still so high in these unkilned hops that we noticed
they dilute the beer. Then
they do dilute the beer.
Huh.
Yeah. So you extract the water content from the hops into these beers, and at 20 pounds per barrel, we've found a reliable number to be about a half a Plato needed. So that's something to consider. And then the other thing to consider is, with that water addition and the massive green material that you're putting in there, the pH rises pretty aggressively. So we're targeting anywhere between 4.8 to 4.9 at our kettle off, flame off situation. And then after that, we're seeing it rise to like 5.1 on a knockout sample.
Yeah.
And for the West Coast IPAs, we're always trying to be between 5.0 to 5.1 on a knockout fermenter sample. So yeah, definitely keep in mind the water and green material and pH and extract, or else you will miss your targets like I did for a year until I standardized our numbers. And we're just using phosphoric acid to adjust the pH on there. kind of the one last thing on the actual fresh hop edition is a lot of these. We have a 15 barrel brew house and a lot of 30 barrel fermenters. So a lot of these batches are 30 barrel batches. What we tend to do is add all of the hops for both batches into the second turn. So what that does is just allows us to cut some time down on the day, because if you
so the first brew is just not fresh hops, it's just the recipe without them, and then all of them go into the second round.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because thinking about the scheduling of the day, if you are to mash in, do your boil, and then throw your fresh hops into your mash tun, and then push the wort back to the mash tun, then knock out, you're not mashing in your second turn until all that's done.
That's a shitload of cleaning you got to do before you can make another batch.
It'd be a crazy day.
Yeah.
So we just kind of started playing around with like, do we do these beers over 2 days and do it that way? Or do we just knock out the first one with no fresh hopping and then double up? So, I mean, you like 20 pounds, 600 pounds into the second one. And I mean, it makes for a crazy sample. You're like, whoa, 40 pounds per barrel makes an insane beer. I don't know if I even would want to drink this. So it did kind of weirdly help us realize that, maybe we are at a good ratio. But
you ever side streamed that out and under like a 1 barrel fermenter
honestly,
and just see what it does? I mean, for science, Jake, come on.
I mean, now that you say it, I definitely need to invest in a little homebrew fermenter or something to play around with it. But yeah,
or at least give you some like blend back kind of capability. That interesting. I don't know what you'd learn, but I'm sure you'd learn something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool idea. We just knock that out, and it's like the milkiest, crazy. It looks like a straight up finished hazy IPA with how yellow and amazing it is, and it's like it works for us. It's a good technique. It's something I would tell people to look at. Of like, we haven't had any issues with like oversaturating and like lacking on our extraction. I think if we put all the fresh hops into that second turn and we were like, man, we're just kind of losing some extraction, we would find a different way to do it. But we haven't found a point yet that is too much. So that's kind of a big tip that I have.
Take it to the limit, Jake.
Yeah.
One more time.
Yeah. I mean, from there, I think, just talking about recipe, we've done a lot of things with a lot of different products. I won't claim we're the first to do this, but I think, when I started listening to the podcast and learning about how, Kelsey and North Park and a lot of people were using flowables in that way, I hadn't heard of anybody using that on fresh hop at the time. So we sort of started playing around with fermenter knockout editions of, the first year we did Incognito, and then we did Dynaboost, and now we're playing around with Hyperboost. But it's just like any way to get a maximum potency into these beers, because I think these beers are most successful when they are just like really nice and balanced, but intense in the right ways. I think a lot of people make a misstep where they're just trying to make this like crazy fresh hop beer. And what we're trying to do is make like a really nice West Coast IPA that has enough fresh hop character to be considered a fresh hop, and not, not be too green, not be too oily, but like I still want it to be like, if I hand this to somebody that doesn't know anything about fresh hop, it's still a good beer. So those flowables have been a big.
So then, how do you think about that? I mean, you've now got this, hop back / whirlpool fresh hop, intensity going into the fermenter. You get through fermentation, or you're knocking out onto some of these flowable products. You don't want to lose. It can't. You have a fair amount of green matter flavor that's just coming from the fresh hops, period. So even with these flowables, you're not as worried about it coming across as synthetic or one note, because you've been building those layers and notes in already with these on the hot side. But there has to be. Is there some limit there into then how how much you might push there, or what types or what kind of varieties you use then in that context to help and complement some of these fresh hops?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I think with adding the rates that we add with, 20 pounds per barrel, you're adding so much flavor and texture into the beer already that you can be a bit judicious with the flowables or the cold side extracts. Like with a normal beer, I think you have to be a bit more careful because you run the risk of feeling synthetic in certain ways or extracty or any of that. And we're not pushing it crazy.
Or too oily and losing foam and all the other nice little mechanics you get there.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to find ways of how do we get cram hop character into all the different nooks and crannies of the beer. And I think like the most interesting drinking experience for me on these beers is one that is not too one note or another and just very harmonious in approach. And when we started doing the knockout cold side stuff, it just really complemented the oil characteristic that we were already layering with the fresh hop edition. And from there we're looking at the dry hop.
Are there some specific, I mean, if you're obviously every one of these is going to change a little bit depending on what it is, but if you're starting with a strata fresh hop beer down here on the front end of the season, are there specific hops in that kind of flowable format that you find because there's the other piece of it, like you never want these dry hops or this kind of fermentation or post fermentation hopping or active fermentation hop, whatever it is, to overshadow all of your fresh hop character either. And especially with something like Citra, you start dry hopping with Citra and instantly your fresh hop beer can become a Citra beer, and then it's just a Citra beer. And so there has to be, I know you're thinking about how you don't lose this specific fresh hop character that you've now gone through all this effort to create.
Yeah, effort and money to create all the
Yes.
at almost $5 a pound. It does get expensive, and it's high risk, high reward. But yeah, I think to kind of an earlier point, it's
What's
just
$100 a barrel in hops, Jake, between friends.
I joke about like a regular Whirlpool edition might be 11 pounds or 22 pounds at 10 pounds in $10 a pound, and then this is like 600 pounds at $5. So it gets crazy quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just trying to find harmonious hops that blend. I'm looking back at a beer from last year that we collabed with Double Elbow and Living House on, and this was a Strata beer. Again, 20 pounds per barrel, a little Columbus Cryo in the late 10-minute edition. And then we actually
so dank. Such hipsters on that
went
side.
for the dank, and then we actually dry hopped this with 33 pounds of Strata, 22 pounds of Citra, and 11 pounds of Crush Cryo. So like not shying away from intense hops.
And laid in more Strata on the dry hop in addition to Strata on the hot side.
That's definitely a calling card of my style.
Yeah,
I just think if you're going to use it on the wet hop, fresh hop side, there should be some of that in the dry hop as well. And I think it because realistically when you're doing the hot side method, you're not getting a ton of aroma off of those. You're getting a bunch of flavor and really locking in this really nice character on the beer, but you have to have still a full dry hop. If you try to skimp out, like if you're going to go full bore ahead, try to make these beers, and then you're like, you get scared at the last minute. It's like, this is so expensive. And then you skimp out on your dry hop, then you're just killing your aroma. So, we're still going with a full, 3 to 5 pounds per barrel dry hop on most of these beers. Some get even higher. And like, that just rounds the circle to me. And it gets you to where now we have a complete beer. Now I'm not suffering from, fleeting flavors and aromas, because I've got, the hot side with all this locked in, the oils, and then I've got this cold side dry hop from a typical beer style that is giving me more flavor and more aroma, and just now this thing's jumping out the glass. And really the main characteristic you notice on our fresh hop beers is not evergreenness. We're never going for chlorophyll green forward. We're going for, this is just like a saturated IPA, and it has all the characteristics of a beer that you want all the time, but you only get to have once a year, which that's kind of the special parts of it.
Sure, and you're not making dry hops for the dry hopping side like Chris might or Zach might, varietal or single hill.
I played around with the idea, and then I saw like, you know, they're just so close and the access to it. Even in the Willamette Valley, I'm still an hour plus away, so I'm like, I'll leave it to those guys. And I think that's a really special thing that, you know, I'm in the Northwest and I have access to a lot of this stuff, but they're even closer, and kind of like trying to emulate that felt a little. It just felt like I was going to work way harder than I needed to, and I think that it's pretty special that those guys get to play around with that, and I'll kind of leave it to them. And you know, I think
a cool thing, and everyone who's an all access subscriber should go check out the Fresh Hop class we did with Zach, where we walk through their process and have them making those dry hops. It's just such a, like, I've been around for it a couple of times now, like. It's just one of the coolest things you can do in the season is go harvest or walk the hop fields during the day, and then come back and make some hop pellets later that day.
I'll say this, like I have access to a lot of this stuff, and Zach invited us to do the hop rodeo this year for the first time, and I'm excited to get, like, I do this all the time every year, and I'm excited to go up there and play around with making new stuff and being competitive and trying all that. Like I was very, very stoked that they reached out to us and it was cool. Like they were on the I think they got silver last year, if I remember correctly, for Fresh Hop at GABF. So it was like, it's like a really obvious collab kind of thing to do, of like, oh yeah, let's work together. We're both kind of doing this at a high level. I'm
stoked that we're taking the brewers a treat to Yakima this year, and we're gonna brew with Zach and Chris as a part of that Bale Breaker, brew at Bale Breaker amidst the vines out there, and we're gonna make some fresh hop beers for the first time ever to Brewers a Treat, and then maybe we'll make some pellets too. I don't know.
I saw that and I was like, man, that looks fun.
It's gonna be a good time. Anyway, let's get back to your process here. So so then dry hopping, you're usually layering on a hop that you've also used on the fresh side. Are there any other kinds of kind of complementary dry hop strategies that you tend to employ that you've found, whether it's hop varieties or whatnot, or a strategy for building some of these recipes that's either the same as your general approach to West Coast IPA, or that kind of diverges from that general approach to West Coast IPA?
Yeah, I think overall I would say that the entire approach is very similar to what we're doing year round on West Coast IPA. And that's like intentional. I want these beers to be a good West Coast IPA first, and then fresh hop second. It might sound a little weird because of all the specialness we're talking about with fresh hop, but I do think it's important to make sure that these are just like really solid classic beers, to where if you're an uninitiated drinker, you're just grabbing it and it's like, wow, that one's like a little better than I was expecting, maybe. And I think kind of to that point, though, the best way to go through this topic is looking at Fresher Than Fresh, which is the beer that we've been winning at Gold at GABF for. So we made it 3 years in a row now. In 2023, they didn't have the category, so we just sent it locally, and we won both competitions gold that it went to, which was like an awesome thing that's showing me we were on the right path. We kind of got together with a local bottle shop, and he was like, I want to do a collab, and I was like, let's do fresh hop. I love Mosaic, you love Mosaic. I could never sell a Mosaic beer because it's too late in the season, and he has a really high volume, 3 locations, so he's like, we'll buy a ton of it. So it was really easy to say yes to that and have a great partner with they're called Taps, and they're here in the Ridgefield, Vancouver, Camas. They've got 3 different locations. Super awesome tap list, really cool people. Highly suggest you swing by if you're ever in the area. But so yeah, we got together and it was like, okay, we know we want Mosaic, so we're doing Mosaic fresh hop. And then that was when we tried the Incognito, because I was just like, this is a process that we really think is good for beer, but I don't think anyone's done it for fresh hop, so let's try. And then from there, we did a pretty modest dry hop of, this is for a 15 barrel batch. We did 11 pounds of Mosaic Cryo and then 16.5 pounds of Simcoe T90. And again, just thought process of like, fresh Mosaic, Mosaic Incognito, Cryo Mosaic, and then what goes good with Mosaic? Well, I love Simcoe, so let's throw some Simcoe in there. It's not going to be too distracting from the Mosaic, but it's going to give us this really nice element. So that was the first year. Felt really good about that beer. Blew my mind in the cellar. Every fermenter sample for gravity I was taking, I was like, this is the best beer I've ever made. What happened? Da da da. So cool. And then, yeah, with the success of it in competition, I was really happy. It sold out instantly. So the next year we came back and we're like, well, we got to make more. We're making 45 barrels of this beer this year. So we had a 30 barrel tank and a 15 barrel tank. I don't want to talk about how much time it took to do all that, but you know, for the love of the game, we did it. And this year we had switched off of using Incognito and started using more Dynaboost, which was 702 at the time. And so we again did the same Mosaic on the fresh hopping. We knocked out onto a good hefty dose. So this was 1 kilogram per 15 barrels of Mosaic Dynaboost. And then for the dry hop, we decided that we're going to do the same thing. We're like, don't mess with success. This is awesome. But a happy accident happened, which was I didn't count my inventory correctly, and I dry hopped. We're dry hopping on the same day. So I dry hopped the 30 barrel tank and I used all my Simcoe. So I was stuck without the Simcoe for the dry hop. And I sat there and I was like, well, what should I do? What do I have? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. So I stared down the bag of Riwaka and I was like, well, I know that would be really good. But for some reason in my head in 2024, I had this idea of fresh hop needed to be like only Northwest, only American ingredients. So we were very strict on that. And I was like, well, I don't have anything else, and I really think this is cool. So I tossed in the bag of Riwaka. We let the dry hop happen. We crashed the beers, transfer them, and we're going to do our bottling for GABF because it was the first year the GABF category came back. And I taste both. I'm like, they're both very good. But I was like, ask my bartender to scramble them up so I could drink them blind. And I was like, that one is so much better. And it was the Riwaka one. So we bottled that up, sent it off, won gold at GABF. And that was like, well, this is the crazy happy accident of like, we made a good beer even better by using an ingredient that we would have never set out to use.
That you might have wanted to use in your heart of hearts, but you thought that couldn't really be something that you could use for other commercial reasons.
Yeah,
and it just gave you the license to do what you might have wanted to do.
I think that's exactly it. I look around, and at the time, I didn't see a lot of people playing with New Zealand hops in there. I mean, I know that Single Hill at least has done it since then, but it just wasn't on my radar. It was like, why would I use New Zealand hops in these beers when in reality, year round, I'm blending Motueka, Super Del, like all these hops with American hops to great success. So once we did it on accident, that then unlocked this like, okay, that's what we're doing from now on. We've done several other fresh hop beers, Krush, Citra, Motueka, like lots of really fun combinations that just make honestly the best beers that we make. So coming into 2025 for the same beer, we've now had this idea of like, I think sometimes people, including me, get scared to change a recipe because it's like, oh, it won, or oh, it's really good, but like innovation is what drives what we do. So we've already moved from Incognito to Dynaboost. Okay, so now 2025, we're like, let's try the Hyper Boost. It's made for cold side editions, so we switched off of that, which was a very Tristan, one of my old brewers, he convinced me to do it, but I was like very hesitant. So I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we changing this beer? But it was such a small change, and it ended up working out. So again, fresh hop Mosaic, hot side, and we knocked out onto 100 grams per 15 barrels of Mosaic Hyper Boost. And then this 2025...
Whenever you're thinking about changing your competition recipe, you just have to ask yourself, what would Hutch do? Because Hutch from Cannonball Creek, and those guys, they've just won,
just killing it.
Just so many medals. And we'll have a video class coming up with them within the next 6 weeks. And it's rad. But just ask yourself, what would Hutch do? And the answer is Hutch would change that recipe to make it the best beer that needs to be this year for the competition. And no fear, take that medal winning beer, gold medal winning beer, change that recipe to make sure that it stays a gold medal beer.
Hey, I love to hear it. I mean, it has made sense for this beer. Like if someone thinks they're trying to catch up to us or like compete against this beer changes every year. So like if you've had it in previous years, it's going to be similar, but like we're definitely making tweaks to this and like hopefully for the better. And, so this 2025, last year's recipe was the Hyper Boost in place of the Dyna Boost. And then there was a new, innovation to the hop industry, which was the Cryo Fresh pellets. So we reached out to our reps at YCH and we're like, is there any way that any of these will be ready for us to maybe dry hop with them on this beer? Because I started to get into the whole online debate of hot side, cold side. And I was like, oh, this is all so silly. I'm going to make a hot and cold side beer. So I'm going to make, we're going to put 600 pounds of unkilned Mosaic hops into our hop back. And then we're going to dry hop with frozen cryo Simcoe, because that was the one that was available at the time. So for this beer, it's like a knockout onto the Hyper Boost. And then day 3, we dry hop with 30 barrel batch, got 22 pounds of Simcoe Cryo Fresh, and then that kind of ferments out. And then at terminal, we hit it with 11, or per 15 barrels, we hit it with 11 pounds of Mosaic Cryo, 11 pounds of Riwaka, and then 5.5 pounds of Simcoe T90. And I think is the best iteration of the beer yet, and is now a protocol of what we're doing for almost every beer this year, is hitting it with some hot side fresh hopping, and then the continuity of using some cold side cryo fresh is like, it layers in this character that we were never able to get prior, and really filled in the gaps of like what I think now is, I'll never say a beer's perfect, but it's definitely exactly what I want to be drinking. So
you just opened up a new avenue in that debate right there. Team both. That old internet meme. Why not both?
Yeah, I think.
Why not make it even more expensive, Jake?
We called it last year, so good. Yeah, it is much more. But my good friend Dan Cady, who's now at Holy Mountain, he was at Taproom last year and he got bronze. So it was like us gold, Single Hill silver, Taproom bronze, and him and I had very similar beers because he sent me some of it, and I was like, this reminds me a lot of my beer. And lo and behold, we end up on the podium together. But he called his damp, so he was like damp hopping. It's like a little bit of hot side, a little bit of cold side. Like, he's just being funny, trying to come up with terminology for it. But I was like, hey, I don't know what to call it, but I know that we're doing both from now on, unless we're with a collaborator or something that doesn't want to go down that road. But it's something that I suggest everyone should look into. Even outside of fresh hop season, I think the Cryo Fresh product line is like the best innovation for fresh hop beer in the beer industry right now, and something that we use. We use it year round now. We call it out one time per year in March because March is halfway to harvest. So we make a beer called Fresh Frozen, which is pretty much an exact replica of the Fresher Than Fresh gold medal beer. But since we don't have access to wet hops, we just do a regular Whirlpool and then a modest 22 pounds per 15 barrel edition. And I believe, based off of my sensory, you get about 80 to 90% of the way to a traditional fresh hop beer for 1% of the effort. So yeah, it's a product that there's a lot of innovation going on in hops right now. And I think this is one of the cooler ones that has happened. And, if you're not in the Northwest and you want to try to make some of these beers, I would say a ratio that I believe is close to what we do with this 20 pounds per barrel wet hop is 22 pounds per 15 barrels mid fermentation dry hop, and that'll get you like a really, really nice beer. You'll still have to whirlpool and dry hop regular at terminal or whatever your protocol is, but it's a beer that's super exciting to us. We sent it to World Beer Cup this year, the fresh frozen with only frozen cryo, and the fresh hop category was in the experimental beer, I believe, and we final tabled with that. And then we also made another beer that we didn't call out using it, and we final tabled West Coast IPA with that beer. So there's
sneaking it into beers you're not even calling fresh hop beers.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's validity to it. Like, it just gives like a really nice, oily, almost dank note. Not in the like Columbus kind of sulfury dankness, but like this really nice. Like, I'll say this. Mosaic Cryo has been my favorite hop for a long time, especially certain lots that I'll get year over year. But Mosaic Cryo Fresh is hands down become my favorite hop product in the world. Not even close. It's so good.
Not even close. All right, Jake. As we zoom out here at the end, any big picture thoughts about fresh hop beers? Obviously, you love them. Obviously, you make a bunch in season. We've talked about that kind of race and seasonal creep, which may be pushing brewers to lean into some varieties that are just not necessarily optimized for the kind of expression that you're looking for. You would love a little more focus on late season hops like Mosaic that could come out and and drive more fresh hop interest if consumers were still ready for them in late September, early October. But any other big picture takes around fresh hop beers before we come to bring this to a close?
No, I mean, I think like you touched on, we got a little too caught up in the hot side versus cold side debate last year, and I think that's sort of just a moot point to me. I really do believe that, speaking to the consumer, that I think I just really hope that you stick with us throughout the season. I think those earlier beers are really fun because you're excited, and so am I. But I really wish that everyone would continue to support into late September, even into early October. And I think,
that Yakima Fresh Hop Festival isn't until October. Come on, guys.
Yeah, if the Fresh Hop Fest is until October, like, that tells me all I need to know, So it's like, I think something to be aware of as a consumer is just talking to your beer tender or your brewer or your brewery or wherever you're going, and like, most places will know like how were these produced, what varieties. And I think my main takeaway that I want people to know is like these hot side produced beers have very long shelf life. It's not something that you need to be so scared that you didn't pick it up the day it was packaged. We're seeing weeks to even months. I mean, we sent 2 fresh hop beers to Japan last year for a competition, and we swept the fresh hop category, and it was judged in late November. So I was like, we sent cans of Fresher Than Fresh and our fresh day beer pale ale, and they were judged 2 months after they were packaged in cans and still beat everybody over there. So it was like, I think it's an interesting beer style. It's something I'm very passionate about, and I think just like, enjoy the season and get really excited about the season. I think one thing before I leave, I want to give a little shout out to is our plans for this year. These are some exciting plans that we've cooked up. So we've got 9 beers that we're making this year, making a lot of the same stuff we did last year, but we're leaning a lot more into collaboration this year. We decided we're on the forefront of these beers. We want to bring in more people that are friends of us that we're excited to work with, and kind of, we're talking, if we're going to talk a big game about celebrating harvest and, celebrating these hop farmers and all that, like, let's do it with our friends. So we have this we're jokingly calling it the West Coast All-Stars collaboration series, but there's 3 beers that we're making this year. 2 of them are West Coast collabs, so one Washington brewery, which is us, one Oregon, and one California, and then one is an all Washington. So for one of them, we've got Fort George and Ism Brewing that we're working together with. I think we're going to be using Chinook for that one. We have Ruse and Ghost Town that we're doing another one with. That'll be with Luminosa. And then the all Washington collab will be us, Structures, and Holy Mountain. these are all people that have made incredible fresh hop beers that I'm super excited about, and then also just guys that are killing the game right now in the West Coast category. So something that we're really, really stoked to put out there this year.
Fun stuff, Jake. I'm excited. Can't wait to taste your fresh hop beers this year. And the ones I've had over the last couple of years have been phenomenal. Obviously, as I was thinking about how we did a fresh hop episode this year, the timing matters. And here we are getting it out in July as brewers are planning out their fresh hop beers for the season. I'm up here in Oregon. We're getting in on the front of it. And I hope that it's some good inspiration for folks out there thinking about how they're going to make their own versions of these. And if the cost of fresh hops is too unbearable, given wherever they are and lacking this kind of proximity, I think it's a pretty awesome thing that the Cryo Fresh option is out there for folks that want to work that in, whether they call it out on the label or just tuck it in to win some awards. But anyway, great place to bring it to a close. G&D's Elite 290 Micro Series is built for brewers who care about sustainability and performance. Berkeley Yeast's Fresh Chico is now available dry. PacTex handles are made from 100% recycled plastic and are fully recyclable. Indie Hop's Lorien has found its way into the hearts of lager lovers across the country. The Midea 50/50 Flex can convert to all fridge, all freezer, or half and half with just the touch of a button. Check out why so many craft brewers trust Briess for their specialty malt, and celebrate Y Yeast's 40th anniversary with 10% off every order of 1056 American Ale placed by July 31st. If you've enjoyed this episode, go to beerandbrewing.com, click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber, or if you are a brewery out there, become an all-access subscriber, and you can ship us some beer 4 times a year for review in the magazine, just like Jake has, and bring home some of these awesome killer scores, all included in that subscription price, because that's what we do. Anyway, Jake, if people want to learn more about Trapdoor, either come drink some beer here fresh from the source or just learn more about the brewery and the beer you make in general, where can they find you all?
Yeah, I would say we have 2 locations. One is in downtown Vancouver on Main Street, and then we're out in Washougal, Washington at 1834 Main Street as well. You can find us on Instagram, Trapdoor Brewing. Mine is Jake, I think _Trapdoor, something like that. But yeah, reach out to me if anybody's got any questions. I love talking about this stuff, so shoot me an email, jake@trapdoorbrewing.com. Any of that stuff. I think this podcast has always been such a great resource to me, and I'm just glad to be able to put my own little stamp on something that hopefully helps someone else down the road. So really appreciate you having me on, Jamie.
You're pulling on the heartstrings here, Jake. No, that's fantastic. And it's great to add your thoughts and your approach into the broader canon of beer, brewing knowledge out there that we've been able to capture on this. And so the beautiful thing is that it's going to continue to evolve. And we're going to have a conversation again in a few years as it all changes, or maybe another panel discussion down the road.
I was like fresh hop round table up in Yakima while we're making pellets at somewhere. That'd be fun.
Sign me up. Sounds like an amazing time. Anyway, it's great talking with you. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those who love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media @craftbeerbrew.